Hello and welcome to my third game of the quarterfinals of the World Championship. Sadly, I lost my two games and now I'm in a difficult spot. If I lose this game, then I am out of the tournament and I need to win three games in a row now to still make it to the semifinals. That will be very difficult, but of course I will give my best and I would be very happy if I should be able to turn this game around. Yeah, and let's, without further ado, take a look at. We are gonna take a look at the leaders and wonders, and it's maybe a little bit of an interesting mix. On in H3 we have the Hollywood, but we have no leader that directly synergizes with it. No Fleming, no Chaplin, no Marlene. There is Gandhi though, so that could maybe be an intention to play a little bit more peaceful, and maybe with Gandhi it could end out to be a peaceful game, and then the Hollywood is still strong. There's also the Red Cross. Pierre is there. There's not a lot of lab synergy. No Bill Gates, no Sid Meier, no Steve. Oh, there is Steve Jobs, but no Einstein. So a little bit of lab synergy, but not that much. In H2 we have no Bach and no Shakespeare, no Gaudi. So Darwin is the only culture leader. So H2 is not that culture heavy. We have Robespierre, Nobel, Maria. Then we have the Harvard College, the Kremlin, Statue of Liberty. In H1 we have Silk Road and Universitas as some science wonders who are strong to get early. The Machu Picchu is there. Joan of Arc is the only military action leader in H1. We also have Gutenberg and Leonardo for some alchemy and printing press synergy. And then Genghis Khan, Michelangelo and Eleanor are also are all a little bit more situational. SandHippo is in the first position and he takes the engineering genius, and I think that's the right solution. Like this, he still keeps him open for Acropolis. There are also some nice wonders from H1 that would be nice to get early, so it might be nice to not commit to a wonder, and like this, he can just go for leader, elect him, build a mine, increase population, use all of his 4 civil actions at the next turn, and then hopefully for him he will have a nice wonder then available. I choose to go for the pyramids. I just didn't want to give SandHippo the pyramids with the engineering genius. That is quite strong. He might be able to finish it very early. And yeah, that might mean that 5 new cards are revealed. So it might mean that SandHippo will be able to get the Acropolis, which would be very strong. But it just felt wrong not taking the pyramids. I could think about maybe taking Sun Tzu and Stockpile or something like this, or Sun Tzu and Patriotism, maybe even Sun Tzu and Hanging Gardens, using the Happy Face to go for some early military pressure. It could be an idea, but giving SandHippo the pyramids with him having the engineering genius, it just didn't feel too great. And like this, I maybe can go for Homer at my next turn. Homer, maybe not the best leader in 2-player games, but with the pyramids, I think he is perfectly fine. The additional civil actions make it easier to afford having the additional civil action that you need to replace him, and also you want to finish the pyramids early, and yeah, so my plan was to go for Homer at the next turn. Sadly, the Acropolis does come out of the deck, and SandHippo goes for Hippocrates, builds the mine, increases his population. At the next turn, he can then go for the Acropolis. At my turn, I had to choose between Homer or Hammurabi, and no, I mean Hammurabi is on 2, so I don't get a civil action from him this turn, and no, the main reason why I didn't go for Homer is because they are not the most leaders that really work immediately without a setup. There's Eleanor, Michelangelo, Genghis Khan, also Leonardo. If I don't have the necessary cards together with them, I don't really have a benefit of replacing Homer immediately. And when I stay with my HA leader for a longer time, then I think that Hammurabi is the better choice. Also, he maybe is not perfect with the pyramids, but he maybe has a little bit of a synergy because if I get, for example, monarchy or theocracy at the next turn, then I can take monarchy or theocracy, build a lab, increase population, then do a revolution at the next turn with Hammurabi, and then finish the pyramids, and then I should be in quite a nice situation with having good civil military actions, with already having a government form, and or still having some science to then maybe start upgrading to iron or something else to increase my economy, or maybe to go for knights if it is needed. So no, and then I think that would be a nice combination of events. But of course, there's no H1 government yet on the card draw. But if my next turn one should be at the card draw, then I would be prepared to do something like this. Then I draw the scientific breakthrough, and SandHippo opens the development of trade routes. And SandHippo has a very nice decision here to make. Has two very strong options. He can either go for Acropolis, or he could also go for an early Universitas. That could also be very strong. He can even do both. Maybe go for the Acropolis this turn, grab Universitas at the next turn. So some very strong options for him. And in the Discord he wrote that he wanted to let Joan of Arc stay on 3 civil actions, and because of that he went for the Acropolis. Or that was one of the reasons, and that definitely makes sense. Because if John is available for 2 for me, I think I would probably grab her. And SandHippo is Hippocrates. If I grab Joan of Arc away, it might be that he is sitting on Hippocrates for a little while longer, and the earlier you replace Hippocrates, the better. So yeah, leaving Joan of Arc on 3, I think, is a very good argument to go for the Acropolis, not to go for the early Universitas here. And then he builds the second lab, increases population, and builds 1 stage of the Acropolis. Also, building the second lab maybe indicates that he has not the intention to go for the Universitas at the next turn, because then he maybe could not build a second lab yet and then finish the Universitas earlier. I see the scientific breakthrough. I was hoping that maybe if 2 resource event is revealed, I can finish the pyramids and take the Universitas, which could be quite strong. Would also take the option from SandHippo away to go for the Universitas still. There is the development of planning, but sadly no 2 resources are available. I can take the development of religion, or the options would be development of settlement or civil life, so a lot of strong developments, and I choose to go for the religion. Then I can increase my population. I build 1 stage of the pyramids, take the knights, take the rich land, the urban growth. I want to have the knights on 1 civil action, and it's nice to have them in hand. And then I thought about taking maybe one of those cards in 2 civil actions, maybe the rich land, but I really wanted to let Joan of Arc stay in 2 civil actions. Then if SandHippo has to take her for 2, otherwise I can maybe at the next turn go for Leonardo, and then he might be stuck on Hippocrates for a while, so he's kind of forced to take one of those leaders for 2. Not forced, but I think it would be very strong, and that also shuts down for him the option for him to go for the Universitas, because he doesn't have enough civil actions to finish Acropolis, take Universitas, and take a leader. So I think it's important here to let Joan of Arc stay on 2 civil actions for him. Maybe I could even think about grabbing Joan of Arc for 3, but Leonardo could also be a strong option, so I didn't feel that I need to grab one of those for 3 civil actions. But of course, spending my civil actions on 2 HA cards is also not ideal. At least I can use the urban growth for sure for my second lab, or for printing presses if I should go for printing presses, and maybe I can also find a use for my rich land. The question is, of course, if SandHippo even would go for Universitas, if he doesn't if, for example, Joan of Arc would be on 1, because Acropolis and Universitas is maybe not the best synergy. With the Acropolis, you prefer to go into urban buildings, and with the Universitas, you invest a lot of resource into this wonder. But it could still be nice to get this early Universitas. So, and in general, letting SandHippo spend 1 more civil action to take the Joan of Arc is, I think, important here. SandHippo opens the development of markets. He indeed grabs Joan of Arc for 2 civil actions, elects her, finishes Acropolis, and then takes the irrigation. It is available for 1, and if he doesn't take it, then there's only 1 copy left. And with me having pyramids in Hammurabi, I definitely can more easily afford to take irrigation for 2, or maybe even for 3. So he would have a significant risk that he would miss out on the irrigation, and so I think taking it here is very important for him. I can finish the pyramids this turn. I can take the resource from the development of markets that allows me to finish the pyramids and to build my second lab. I also thought about some other options, because I will take Leonardo this turn, and maybe I could delay my second lab if one of the printing presses on the card row the next turn, and I maybe could still go into printing presses with Leonardo. There's not the biggest printing press synergy, but there's still Darwin in Hollywood, so it could be nice, but there's no printing press in the card row. There are also still 2 copies of alchemy, so I rather wanted to get the economic value out of the lab immediately. And after doing all this, I have 3 civil actions left. I can take Leonardo, the rich land, and the frugality. And at the next turn, maybe I can go for 1 alchemy with Leonardo, or for 1 printing press if one of those technologies is available. If not, then I can maybe stick for Hammurabi a little bit longer, and then I'll go for Leonardo as soon as I can. I also thought about going for the masonry. I could use it to finish the pyramids, and it could also save me some resource when I want to go for alchemies or printing press with Leonardo. But I just thought that I don't have the science for it. Then I would be at 3 science at my next turn, meaning that when alchemy is in the card row I can't go for it immediately with Leonardo. And it might be nice to go for it immediately because the scientific breakthrough is in the next deck, and then it would be a shame if that came out before I go for Leonardo. And then I draw the barbarians. And SandHippo will produce more culture the next turn, so this could be a playable event for me. SandHippo opens the development of science, goes for the irrigation, upgrades 2 times and just increases population, just do some useful stuff for his civilization. He is still for civil action, so he has to be careful. The iron might be available for him at the next turn, and then he might need some civil actions to go for that. So I think that's the correct choice by him to not take any of those yellow cards. Also leaving the alchemy in 2 for me is important, so he probably also doesn't want to grab the urban growth. This turn I could think about going for iron, maybe deny to SandHippo, but I just think going for alchemy directly is best here, and especially with the scientific breakthrough in there, so I went for Leonardo here. Can grab the alchemy, develop it, upgrade 1 time, and then I have only 1 civil action left. There's the engineering genius on 1, which definitely would be a very nice card for me to get, but I didn't want to take the risk on missing out on the irrigation. There's no ocean liner service, there would be only this 1 copy of selective breeding to help me out with my population, so I think I kinda have to grab the irrigation here. Sadly, that means that SandHippo maybe can go for the engineering genius, but there are some other strong cards that he might want to go for. Maybe he wants to go for 1 upgrade to iron. The theocracy with having Joan of Arc and the Acropolis is very strong, and I also felt a little bit uncomfortable because of it, because just developing it will put him at 5 strength, and at the moment I have no tactic for my knights yet, and it could get a little bit ugly. I have the fighting band, maybe the swordsman will be available. And I also thought about taking theocracy, but I just think I have to go for this upgrade to alchemy. Then I draw the rebellion. SandHippo proceeds, and luckily no strength event yet, but another event that isn't that great for me. I have no defense card, so SandHippo wins it for just a warrior. I passed because SandHippo definitely will bid for it, and with SandHippo potentially going for theocracy soon and maybe going for some military pressure, I kinda didn't want him to know that I have no defense cards. If I pass, probably he will assume that I have no defense card, but maybe it is a little bit less obvious than when I just bid 1. And yeah, so I was not happy about this colony, first of all because SandHippo gets it for very cheap, which is great for him, and second of all because it kind of reveals to him that I have no defense card, and that could be important if he maybe later on decides whether he wants to go for an aggression or not. Yeah, but of course I had Hammurabi, SandHippo had Joan of Arc, did draw more cards, so I can't complain about having no defense cards, but yeah, still definitely not nice for me. Then SandHippo goes for the iron, develops it, does 1 upgrade, and builds 1 warrior. Maybe there's another colony in the deck, maybe he just wants to be prepared to be stronger, and then he takes the theocracy. And yeah, so he has a government form that he can go for with the Acropolis, and it's of course also nice synergy with Joan of Arc, and at least he also can't take the engineering genius. Also with having the pyramids, the theocracy could also be very nice for myself, so it's also maybe a little bit of hate draft, or not hate draft, but taking it away from me is maybe also an argument for him to take it. He reveals the medieval army. That is an interesting choice, and I was actually quite happy about it. I did not draw a tactic with knights yet. I have the fighting band, I could go for swordsman and could maybe find ways to go for some strength, but being able to copy that later on, yeah, like this, I just know that I can go for those knights and I can copy this tactic. So maybe he has some cards that he wants to keep in hand, maybe some defense cards, maybe some cards that he wants to see in the deck, but maybe it's not that maybe it's not, definitely helps me out when he reveals it. So I think it only makes sense for him if he really has some strong cards in hand. Then this turn I can go for knights, now that I have the knowledge about the medieval army, and I also can go for irrigation. Can upgrade 2 times, use my rich lands, and with my last civil action I either thought about upgrading my last lab to alchemy. There is still the scientific breakthrough, so that could mean basically 2 science that I get, but I could also increase my population and build 1 more knight. That would mean that I'm stronger, there could be a strength event, and yeah, so then I would be prepared for that. I didn't want to take the breakthrough because I wanted to let knights stay into civil actions for SandHippo, who definitely wants them after revealing the medieval army, and also with it being the last military technologies after the swordsman will be gone. Yeah. And while the scientific breakthrough could definitely be quite nice to open it when I have 5 science production, I just thought that I didn't want to give SandHippo potential strength events that easily. And so I went for 1 more knight. Next turn I can copy the medieval army and can go up to 7 strength. Now that knights stay on 2, SandHippo is to make a decision, because he can't really take knights and Code of Laws, only with corruption. Or he could build 1 warrior, so maybe that would even be an idea. But now he wants the wealthy territory, now it's... he has iron, so it's still possible. He could still build 1 warrior and just take knights and Code of Laws, but it would be very costly. He doesn't really have science for all of those technologies, and it might be better to just give me the Code of Laws. I have 5 civil actions already anyway. And I mean, it definitely would be nice for him to get his 5th civil action at some point, but it just probably is too costly for him. He wants to have the knights, and then he can increase his population and then build 1 knight and 1 warrior and go up to 7 strength. Maybe there is still a strength event, so maybe I have to be careful about it. But I still choose to seed. I seeded the barbarians. One of those events is the scientific breakthrough, and that could be an argument to not seed, because I can increase my science production this turn, but getting science now immediately will allow me to go for the Code of Laws, and I thought that could be quite nice, and so I was willing to push. It is indeed a scientific breakthrough revealed, which gives me 4 additional science. I can go for the Code of Laws now, and then I can increase my population, upgrade 1 of my labs, and grab those 2 yellow cards. I'm now at 6 civil actions, I have good food and science production going on. There's still 1 copy of iron left, so I felt quite nice about my economy that's going on. I can also copy the medieval army tactic now. But I felt a little bit uncomfortable because SandHippo has quite a potential. Because of the colonies, he has a very nice yellow bank, and if he goes for theocracy and maybe 1 more medieval army, then he can go up to a lot of strength, and it could get very dangerous for me then. So that was 1 part where I was quite worried about. I can at least maybe go for 1 more warrior. I mean that the next turn I will lose 2 yellow tokens, so that will be unhappy, but I can maybe go for this theology to upgrade on religion, and then I can put this into warrior. But if SandHippo decides to go for a lot of strength, then maybe I can't really prepare myself to defend. SandHippo increases population again, builds 1 more knight, but then interestingly goes for the lab and goes for the theocracy. I mean, it definitely makes sense. The lab basically scores him immediately 2 science, 1 from the production, 1 because of the discount. But I just thought that maybe building a warrior and going up to 14 strength could be an idea, because then I really would have some problems to defend, and now 11 strength I can handle. But maybe SandHippo has no aggression in hand, and building 1 more warrior would also mean missing out on 1 more card draw. And if he has no aggression, maybe also no event that he really wants to push, then I definitely can understand that he rather wants to draw 3 cards. But if he has an aggression in hand, then I think going for the warrior maybe would be better. Yeah, but I guess he doesn't have an aggression yet. Yeah, this turn I have to react. I want to be able to defend myself, and for this I basically have to go for the theology. I have to upgrade this religion, and I can build 1 warrior and at least go up to 10 strength. And with my last civil actions I took the monarchy, and I also wanted to have the iron. I could maybe wait for the coal, but it would be risky. I don't know when it will be available, and I I maybe could stay on bronze mines with a lot of civil actions, but I also didn't like that too much, so I just took the iron. And no, the monarchy is very nice to have in hand. I will have 12 science at my next turn, so if for example the common is available I will go for it, but if the H2 governments are not nicely timed for me, then I can just go for the monarchy. I do draw the prosperity, so I have no two happy face related events in hand. SandHippo seeds, and sadly the uncertain borders is revealed, so I lose one yellow token, and yeah, that's definitely not ideal. My next worker will be unhappy now. I have to increase my population to avoid an uprising, and SandHippo has even one more yellow token in his yellow bank. Increases population, grabs the Eiffel Tower, and increases population again, builds one more warrior, and goes up to 14 strength. And that might again cause some problems, especially now that I don't have a free population. Otherwise I could have maybe built one more knight, but now it could get dangerous. There are ways how I maybe can defend, for example with Monarchy and Catherine. I would have 4 military actions, but yeah, I'm definitely a little bit in the defensive here. SandHippo doesn't upgrade his mines yet, rather wants to have the Eiffel Tower, which is interesting, but the additional happy face and the culture production could be quite nice for him. So yeah, I can see why he wants to have him. This turn, the strategy is on a 3 for me, and that definitely helps me quite a lot with defending. I mean, I could go for Monarchy, but to really be sure, I kinda need one more military action or one more strength, which is not that easy to achieve, and strategy is just a very nice card to have. If I don't take it, SandHippo can take it, and maybe really go for a lot of military, develop strategy, go for one more knight and warrior, and it could be very dangerous for me, especially if he has drawn a war. So I kinda have to take it, but it also helps me quite a lot. I can develop it. Sadly, I'm still weaker, but at least I am in no danger of any aggression now. And sadly, I also kinda have to get out of corruption now. I'm not willing to not to have corruption with still being on bronze mines, so I build a second theology here, but sadly I miss out on some strong cards like architecture, cannons, or also the opera. Then I draw the fortification, so that's nice to have this tactic. Also we can see that with having Joan of Arc, the Acropolis center was a little bit of a culture lead already. Yeah, the big advantage that I have is that I have a lot of civil actions already, and I have very nice science production, so I can hopefully will be able to go for iron or coal soon, and then I hopefully will have the better economy. But one big advantage for SandHippo is his yellow bank. He has 4 more yellow tokens in his bank at the moment, also 1 free population, and that is very nice for him. SandHippo seeds and a pestilence is open, so now we both lose 1 population. That definitely hits me more. I don't have a free population, and as I said, in general he has the better yellow bank and a better population situation, so that's a nice event for him. And then he interestingly goes for Nobel for 3. Gets some more science immediately and grabs the cannons. I mean, it's not bad. Nobel is maybe so strong leader. It's still relatively early in H2, but I just felt that maybe just doing a turn like upgrading 2 of his mines, taking cannons and increasing population, or taking cannons and taking one of those yellow cards, and then maybe letting Nobel stay in 3 for me could maybe be the better turn. But I mean, he gets the science now immediately, so that's not bad. But I just felt that with the Eiffel Tower, maybe it is better to upgrade those mines now, so that he can afford the resource that he will spend in the Eiffel Tower, because he probably doesn't want to finish the Eiffel Tower before he upgrades his mines. But with Nobel I also would have an easy solution to get stronger, with just electing him, so maybe he didn't want to have me to have the solution. This turn I ceded the prosperity. I'm still weaker, but I just felt that I wanted to have some knowledge. The prosperity might help me quite a lot with the additional food. I have more happy face at the moment in SandHippo, and I need the food more. So I wanted to have this in the deck, and I was willing to push even though I'm weaker. And then the barbarians are revealed that I ceded. SandHippo sadly isn't weaker, but yeah, I don't lose anything from it. This turn I had to decide whether I want to go for coal or for iron. First I thought I want to go for coal, but I could develop coal, play the reserves, upgrade 1 time. The problem is then I have only one civil action left, and if I go for iron and upgrade 2 times, then I have 2 civil action left, 2 civil actions left, and in both scenarios I have 5 resource production now. But iron has some advantages. First of all, the one civil action that I have left, meaning that I can take 2 yellow cards instead of only 1. And also, when I take the revolutionary idea now, with investing 2 less science, I can go, for example, for Conmon at the next turn or for Republic. And so I just felt iron is probably still better, just because I can do more at this turn. And also, when I would go for coal, I would have only 5 resources at the next turn, unless I take the reserves, or unless I develop something at a turn after that with Leonardo, but I maybe still want to go for a government farm, and so it might not be that easy to find a technology that I really want to develop, meaning that my second upgrade could get quite delayed, while I can just do the third upgrade to iron immediately the next turn if I want to. And then with my last 2 civil actions I take the revolutionary idea and the reserves. Then I draw the Independence Declaration and the Iconoclasm. SandHippo Seeds and a call to arms is revealed, sadly. I draw 2 more cards, the Plunder and the Politics of Strength. SandHippo interestingly goes to Republic here. I mean, it definitely helps him out in the regard that he has now a bunch of civil actions, but with the strategy already gone, and with him having already elected his leader, so that he can't get a military action from Robespierre or Catherine. It is also a little bit dangerous going down to 2 military action, but I think it's also a little bit of a denial, because Robespierre is in the card draw, and I could just go for Robespierre with Republic, have tons of civil actions, and that would leave me, I think, in a very strong position. And like this, SandHippo is more flexible because he has more civil actions, and maybe he felt confident enough that he can survive in the military, because I still don't have the most free population, and yeah, so maybe he thought that if I go for military, that it would hurt myself, because maybe I have to delete something. I can't really put that many population in my military, and with that he maybe thought that he can afford going down to 2 military actions. Then he upgrades 2 of his mines this turn, grabs the Wave of Nationalism. At the next turn he's exactly enough resources to finish the Eiffel Tower. This turn I seeded the Iconoclasm because I will go for Robespierre this turn, and when it's revealed in H3, then it might be better for me when I lose Robespierre than for SandHippo when he loses Nobel. Of course, there could still be strength events, and it's risky to seed, but I just wanted to have some knowledge about the next events, and I thought it could be a nice event to play. Sadly, there's indeed a strength event revealed in international negotiations. At least I can choose myself what I want to pay. I either thought that I want to pay science or food, and first I thought science, because I really don't have the most population. On the other hand, maybe I want to go for an H3 government, and I just felt that the science could be very useful for me, and so I wanted to pay food to SandHippo. At the moment he has a lot of food anyway. It might even cause him some problems, because he has to spend a lot of civil actions to increase his population. But he also has a lot of civil actions, so probably it doesn't cause him a lot of problems, but yeah, I at the end choose to pay food. There's no Conmon on the card draw, and yeah, I could wait for the Conmon. I could maybe go for Maria. Darwin is very difficult with 2 theologies. Maria is maybe also not ideal. Maybe I could make her work, but I felt that Robespierre is maybe still the best, and I didn't want to wait for the Conmon. Also, Conmon is not that great with Robespierre, so I just choose to go for the monarchy. It's maybe not ideal, but now I'm at 7 civil and 6 military actions, which is very fine. And also it is very cheap for 2 science to get this. So while it is not as great as going for Republic Revolution, I still felt that it's definitely worth it, and that it gives me more value than the other leaders. Then I have 4 civil actions left, and I can do 1 upgrade to my mines, and I can get 3 yellow cards for 1 civil action each, so that's very strong for me. And I have now a lot of flexibility. I have 2 reserves, I have the revolutionary idea, and so I was quite happy about having that many yellow cards, and hopefully that I am maybe flexible if I then maybe want to go for more military, or if I want to start producing more culture. SandHippo finishes the Eiffel Tower this turn, grabs the team spots, the rifleman, the cavalryman, and increases population 1 time. And also interestingly, he reveals the conquistadors, which actually reduces his strength by 1. But if he gets weaker, at least he can use the wave. And also, he is maybe concerned, because if I declare war and he doesn't reveal the conquistadors, no, he doesn't have enough military actions, for example, to go for 2 upgrades to rifleman and reveal conquistadors. Like this, he could probably not go for 2 riflemen, but he could go for 2 more knights, get 1 more outdated tactic, then at the next turn, if needed, go for 2 upgrades to rifleman. So then he's just enough military actions to defend himself. And so it's probably a good decision by him to reveal it now already. I seeded a civil unrest this turn. I just wanted to continue seeding, getting some culture for it, having some knowledge about the future events. So I seeded a civil unrest, and then the prosperity is revealed. And no, this turn I do have some different options. There are the cannons. I could maybe start going for those fortifications, using the food from the prosperity for that, put some pressure on SandHippo, but I just felt that SandHippo can relatively easily defend. As I said, he can go for rifleman, upgrade 2 times even for free with the wave. At the following turn he can build 2 knights, and when he does all of this, then he will be at 25 strength if I remember it correctly, or 27, one of those 2. And I can't really go for a lot more with my limited food that I have, especially when I lose the 2 yellow tokens. So it just didn't felt like I can cause a lot of pressure. At least he would have to spend all of his military actions in 2 turns, but it could also be that an early military theory is revealed, and I didn't feel like I can really cause a lot of damage to him, and so I rather choose to go for some culture reduction for myself and to increase my economy even further with going for the journalism. I could go for operas instead, because I will need a happy face quite soon anyway, so it could be a little bit safer. On the other hand, I also really like the additional science production that I get from the journalisms. Also, yeah, but a reason to take the opera is maybe that SandHippo has 3 labs, so maybe the journalisms are not as great for him as the opera, so the opera is probably better. Maybe I should take it away. But he has a lot of happy faces, and probably he can still make use of the journalisms as well. And I felt that journalisms are maybe the better technology for me. I can build 1 journalism then, and then I can grab the breakthrough, and I also want to have the cannons. Now H3 will start. I also draw the classic army, which gives me 1 more option. We can take a look at the overview, and we can see that we have relatively similar positions, or not that similar, but our science and resource production is very similar. SandHippo has the better population situation, and he has a little bit of a culture lead, but it is not as big. And the big advantage that I have are my 6 military actions, so if I get maybe a nice tactic, a war over culture, I mean I have the fortifications, the classic army, but if I see that I can, I'm just a lot more flexible. But SandHippo has some science saved up, so if something like military theory is available for him, then he can fix this weakness relatively easily. SandHippo increases population 2 times. Builds a 4th mine, interestingly, increases population again, takes the opera, takes the fission upgrade, and then develops the rifleman. I then again choose to seed it my turn. Again, there could be the risk of strength event, but international negotiations is out. I have politics of strength in hand, so the refugees could be in there. But I thought that if there are really some very bad strength events in there, then maybe SandHippo wouldn't have gone for the Republic, because that makes it quite harder for him to fight for those strength events. So I hoped that there is no refugees coming, and I just wanted to keep pushing, seeded independence declaration. And economic progress is opened. That definitely explains why SandHippo built a 4th mine to get out of corruption, to now get 8 additional resources, and he has now quite a lot of additional stuff lying around, and I didn't like it too much. He has still a lot of free population, can maybe start building a bunch of operas, maybe even go for this multimedia that's in the card draw, so I didn't like it too much. At least the 1 additional food allows me to increase my population 2 times with the frugality. I can build 1 more journalism to get even more science and culture reduction. And now I can easily afford going for an H3 government with also having the revolutionary idea and the breakthrough in hand, so that could be quite nice. And then I grab the reserves and play the revolutionary idea. I could also grab the efficient upgrade instead of playing the revolutionary idea, but then in my hand would be full at my next turn, and I felt that could leave me unflexible. There could be some nice stuff in the card where I could maybe go for early oil with Marie Curie, could maybe go for computers. I mean, for both of those things, the efficient upgrade could be nice, but it could also be bad because I would have to play something first before I can go for this, and there might be more important cards for me to grab than the 3 resources that I might get from the efficient upgrade, and maybe it might end up that just a dead card in my hand if I don't want to go for any of those upgrades. I draw 2 times the modern army, so it could be interesting if I get the necessary technologies in a war. Then that could be maybe a way to win this game, to go for a lot of strength. SandHippo goes for the multimedia. He has now a lot of resources, and that's a very nice way for him to invest those resources. He builds one and then takes the communism for 3, which is very interesting. Maybe he just felt a little bit uncomfortable with his 2 military actions. Maybe he felt that that it could get dangerous, even though can increase his strength still reasonably well. There are 2 more ways how he could get more military actions, like fundamentalism or military theories. So he could wait for that, but I think this communism is also a little bit of a denial because I have a lot of science, and it could give me a boost when I go for the communism immediately. I mean, then I would have an uprising problem, but there's still 1 copy of organized religion, and while it is not ideal to upgrade from theology to organized religion, it's still could be a good thing to do for me and would allow me to go for communism. Then I see the politics of strength because I thought that I maybe want to go for a little bit of military play. I've no war of a culture in hand yet, but I just thought that maybe when I prepare for that, once the deck is switched, when I make sure that I will have enough strength, then that could also help me drawing a war, and maybe that opens up this military option for me, and the popularization of science is revealed. Yeah, and with having this modern army and also with having the classic army, I thought that maybe keeping this option open, preparing a little bit for it, could be a nice way to go for here. The problem is I can't really increase my cultural reduction that easily. I mean, I could go for organized religion, put this work into journalism, but then I basically don't have any chance to go for a lot of military, or it will be very difficult and I would have to delete quite a bunch of stuff. So I didn't want to commit to another journalism, and also I felt SandHippo, now that he got the multimedia, he still has very nice resource production, has a bunch of resources saved up. He can go for those operas. I just felt that he might have the edge if this game remains peaceful, but he has only the conquistadors, he has not drawn that many cards, and yeah, so I felt like the military could be a very nice way for me to go for, and I wanted to prepare for it. Rather than going for a little bit more culture. I can go for 1 upgrade to modern infantry, that makes me stronger, and then I can take the organized religion and the fundamentalism. I really wanted to have the fundamentalism in hand. First of all, that would be an even easier way for SandHippo to prepare himself in strength. With the Acropolis, that would be quite cheap, and he also wouldn't get 1 more unhappy worker. And also there is Gandhi in the deck, and I want to have a way to even declare war against Gandhi if I should go in this direction further down the road. Having the fundamentalism allows me to go for even more military actions. I have 6 at the moment. Once Robespierre has gone 5, so then I would have 7, even when I get transition out of Robespierre, because the iconoclasm is the event on top. And yeah, I also thought about doing a revolution with Robespierre, because Robespierre might be gone before my next turn, but then I don't draw any cards, and I kinda didn't want to commit too much into all of this military before I don't have a war over culture. I just wanted to prepare for it a little bit, and yeah, and I was hoping that maybe when I get stronger, that SandHippo won't see it, or maybe also he has no event in hand with having that few cards. And then maybe I can still do the revolution at the next turn if I maybe draw a war, or think that it is a good thing to do. With With my last civil action, I don't really have anything that I really need to grab, and so I just developed the organized religion. As I said, it's not ideal to upgrade from theology to organized religion, but I just think I need every free worker that I can get, and just being able to upgrade and making this worker happy is quite strong. I also have a bunch of free military actions, so I can copy to the conquistadors tactic. And I indeed draw a war, so with that in hand, if I get maybe the tanks for the modern army, and maybe can do the revolution with to fundamentalism with Robespierre, then I could maybe go for a big war over culture. Was definitely very happy to have this option. SandHippo plays the wave now that he's weaker, goes for 2 upgrades that makes him stronger. I didn't see it, so I can maybe use Robespierre for the revolution at the next turn. And also or communism. I could have, of course, gone for communism with the Robespierre revolution. So that's also, of course, a big reason for SandHippo to take it earlier, to deny that a strong option for me. Then SandHippo goes for the team sports and grabs the urban growth and the military buildup. Doesn't grab the air forces, but of course there will be a second copy. But that will be in the discard spot, that copy of air force, so it's a little bit dangerous from him. If the second copy of air force is revealed, I could deny it, and then his military potential would be quite limited. And when we take a look at the card row, we can see that there are basically all of the things that I need for a successful war. I can take air forces, I can take the military theory, which I don't need myself, but it could be an easy way for SandHippo to get more strength, so I can take this away. And there are also the tanks, so I have basically all of the pieces that I need for maybe going for the modern army and preparing to go for a war. There are not the most turns left, and I also only have 1 war in hand, but if I go for 1 big war, then hopefully that will be enough to win the game, because the culture lead is also not too big at the moment. And with all of those cards being available, I wanted to prepare for it. I can take the air forces, I can take the military theory, the tanks, the reserves to have even more resource in hand for my military and to deny resource from SandHippo for his military. Sadly, I can't really get out of corruption. I wanted to upgrade one of my theologies to organized religion. That means I have corruption, but I have a lot of reserves in hand. And then at the next turn, my plan was to prepare for war and to then go for the war at the next turn or the turn after that. And hopefully I will be able to achieve quite a lot of strength. SandHippo goes for team sports, goes for communism. Now he finally has more military actions. Also he goes for Pierre, increases population and takes the patriotism. With going for Pierre, he shuts down the option to go for Gandhi, but I have enough military actions to also war against Gandhi anyway, and Gandhi isn't on the card row, so Pierre seems like a good solution, because if I want to prepare for war the next turn, then SandHippo can go for the Olympic Games, and then I have to at least war against the Olympic Games, which is definitely not ideal. And then with this last 2 civil actions, SandHippo takes the patriotism. This turn I tried to prepare for the war, but sadly it didn't really work out like I planned it. And maybe I should have done more calculations at the turn before. I mean, I did some calculations, but there are a lot of different options how I could go for all of this. I also don't know what other cards I could get for help, like reserves or Churchill, who could give me additional resources. And I did try a lot of different options how I could prepare for the war, but even though I have all of those reserves in hand, I don't really have enough resources to go for a very big amount of strength at the next turn. And those H3 units just cost quite a bit of resources, and so the resources are spent very quickly. So the plan that I thought that I might want to go for is to order basically the biggest that I found that I can achieve for my next turn is to go for 1 modern army, for 1 air force, and for 1 outdated modern army. And with that I would only beat 7-2 strength. That's definitely not bad. The problem is SandHippo has a military buildup and a patriotism in hand, and he has 2 more turns to prepare for his military, and so he will have a total of 40 resources for his military. If he has drawn already tactic like entrenchments, and goes for 4 cannons and 2 air force, which he definitely can do, then that he will be at more than 72 strength. Also, if he has the shock troops, he has not drawn the most cards, but still some cards, and yeah, so I did not really feel that great about about preparing for war. Especially, I would have to war against Pierre, who can do the Olympic Games, and even if SandHippo doesn't have a nice tactic, even if he just stays in Conquistadors, at the next turn he could go for 2 more knights and 2 air forces, and at the turn after that, when he is willing to delete some stuff, he could go for 1 more army and 1 more air force, and then even with staying in Conquistadors, he could achieve strength total of 67. So it would only be a very small war. I would war against Olympic Games, and it just didn't feel like it would be enough. And there's the big danger that I would even lose the war. Maybe I did overlook something. Maybe there would be an option to go for even more strength at the next turn. I also thought about including Churchill in my plans, hoping for him that he will be available, but I just have a lot of stuff to do. I don't really have the civil actions to take and elect him at the next turn. No, and so the question was, what should I do? I thought about it, and I thought maybe I just have to risk it, that SandHippo doesn't have the tactic, and still go for the war. But at the end, I found one solution, or more thing that I considered was to just don't go for a war, don't go for a war at all. Go for the Hollywood, go for the movies, the engineering. I could make the Hollywood reasonably big, but there's still the fast food chains. SandHippo will get Olympic Games, has a bunch of resources, can build more cultural production, and so I kind of thought that in a peaceful game I don't really have big chances to win. But then one idea came to my mind, and I thought this idea leaves me with a reasonable chance to win this game, and that was actually to go for war immediately. Like this, I don't even use the modern army tactic, I just go for air forces, for tanks. I can then play all of my resources, go for 2 upgrades, and reveal the classic army tactic going up to 50 strength. And my idea was this, that will only be a very, very close war. SandHippo can go up to 47 strength with going for 2 more knights and 2 more air forces. But even if he has some other tactics, he can't really do more. Because when I let the air forces stay on 2, then for all of the solutions where maybe could get more strength, there's something missing. For example, to do one example, when he has the positional army, then he could go for air forces, develop cannons, and then he could play military build-up, destroy 2 things, build 2 cannons, and 1 air force. And that would put him at 48 strength, so that's definitely not bad, but he is missing 1 civil action to delete 1 more stuff to build 1 more unit. Instead of playing the military build-up, he could play the patriotism, and then he could, after building the 2 cannons and the 2 air force, he could delete a knight, and he would still have 1 military action left to still build a unit, because with the military build-up after deleting the knight, he would have used all of his military actions. But if he wants to use the patriotism, then he's missing 1 resource to build a 2nd air force. That would put him at 51, so he could only delete a knight and put it to rifleman, which would only leave him at 49 strength. And for example, if he has the Napoleonic army, then he can go for air forces, develop cannons, but he has only 3 civil actions left, and he can't get enough resources or not enough population to build 2 cannons, 2 air forces, and reveal the Napoleonic army. Yeah, so the war should be safe, only close, but my idea was this. When SandHippo is basically forced to react to this, to basically spend all of his civil actions for defense, and he can't do anything else. And then there is still the fast food chains left, and 7 new cards will probably be revealed before my next turn. If the fast food chains are revealed, then I can take the fast food chains. I still have enough resources to finish it at my last turn, and SandHippo will miss out on H3 Wonder, because fast food chains will be the last one, the Hollywood will be discarded. So I force him to react, he can't increase his culture production, I will steal some culture from him. And then my plan was that I hopefully will get the fast food chains, and when I finish it, and that could maybe give me an edge, and maybe I can win the game like this. With my last 2 cards, I took the fission upgrade in the computers. I will be able to develop the computers at my last turn, and so that's But I basically don't have anything else to do, and I don't want to take any of those cards because it's very important that the Air Force stay on 2, otherwise SandHippo could go for some nice plays where he can maybe go for more strength than 50. I could also, instead of upgrading the 2 knights, I could also delete something and build a 3rd knight. That would put me at 52 strength, no, at 53 maybe even, but then I would not have enough resources to finish the fast food chains at the last turn. SandHippo seeds, finally the iconoclasm is revealed now. And then he goes for air forces, plays the military buildup, increases population, goes for 2 air forces, deletes 2 things, and goes for 2 knights. That's all he can do. But no, so you see it's only a small war, but at least I win the war, and it's still a culture swing of 16. And now the very important thing was whether fast food chains will be on the card row or not. That will now be very important. And of course, that was a big risk in this plan, but I just thought the other plans will not really work out in my favor. And no. And as you can see, sadly, there is no fast food chains in the card row. It is sadly one of the last 3 cards, and now it definitely doesn't look too great. I see that the impact of competition is actually a little bit better at the moment, even for SandHippo, but it should still be worth seeding it, and I don't want to go for an aggression or a war when the Olympic Games are ongoing. So I see that the impact of competition. The politics of strength is opened, so SandHippo will lose some culture at his turn, because he can't miss out on the card draw, because he won't draw any cards anyway. And I will draw 5 additional cards with the politics of strength. And draw the impact of harmony, which is a playable impact, but not really a great impact. I rather would like to see something like impact of strength. Because now I need some nice impacts to still have a chance to win this game. Then I take Churchill. There's also the endowment. So when the fast food chains would be there, I could grab the fast food chains, the endowment, and then maybe go for leader at the next turn. And with the endowment fast food chains, I think I would have a chance to win this game. Then I play the reserves for resources, I take the civil service, and I upgrade one of my theologies to organized religion. Why do I do all of this? First of all, I thought that I still want to prepare to be able to finish the fast food chains the next turn. SandHippo is of course a very strong player, and he definitely will take it away, but at least he has to take it away, which leaves him with fewer civil actions that he can spend on his turn, so he maybe can't do that much with his turn. The civil service would be an easy way to just take and develop it without basically using any civil action, because after doing this he would still have 7. So I wanted to take this away. Maybe we'll still draw the impact of progress, and then it could be nice when SandHippo didn't go for the civil service. And then I upgraded this to religion. I could save the efficient upgrade, maybe if I want to go for computers, if I draw the impact of science or something like this. The problem is the civil unrest is in the deck, and I will lose 2 yellow tokens. So if SandHippo seeds, or when I seed it my next turn, I could lose 4 culture because of it, so I have to prepare for it now. Then I draw 2 more defense cards and the impact of architecture, which is also not the best impact for me. It's also a playable one, but not a great impact. SandHippo disbands one of his knights, builds one multimedia, disbands one of his mines, goes for 1 more team sports, which of course produces some 2 culture with Pierre, copies the classic army tactic, and then of course he has to take the fast food chains away. At my turn I could just do something normal, like playing Impact of Harmony, preparing a little bit for impacts and doing some stuff, but I'm behind now and I have to hope for something. And I thought about 2 ways how I maybe still have a chance to win this game. The first way is to play the impact of architecture and then to develop the computers, and to upgrade 1 alchemy to computers and build 1 computers. The thought behind is that there's 1 impact played by SandHippo. He went for 2 multimedias or 3 multimedias. He has a lot of science production, and it might be that the impact of science is in there. And then I would win the impact of science, and so that could be one way how I maybe could get a lot out of the impact that SandHippo played. And the problem is, when there is the impact of science, and if I assume that the impact of science is in there, because with this play I would of course be hoping for this. When I assume that the impact of science is in there, then I can of course do some calculations because I have perfect information about impacts, and sadly, even if the impact of science is in there, it would not be enough for me to win this game. So I had to try something else, and instead of playing one of those impacts, I choose to go for the armed intervention because yeah, it would be a very big 14 culture swing, something that could maybe bring me back into the game. At the moment, SandHippo is 34 culture in the lead. Like this, he would only be 20 culture in the lead. I would get production, I would get endowment, and if then maybe his impact isn't a really great one, maybe one that he played just to gain some culture for seeding it, then maybe I can have some hope then, or if it even is impacted is worse now because he had to delete some stuff, but he is sadly still prepared for quite a lot of impacts quite well. And also I've drawn 5 colonization cards, meaning only 2 are left. I mean, SandHippo deleted one of his knights, so it maybe is unlikely then that he has no defense card, but maybe he also thought that I did draw a lot of cards with the politics of strength, that I maybe have an impact that I want to play, and that it is that he maybe it was a little bit of a bluff, and because it is just very likely, maybe from his perspective, that he should have won defense cards. That was what I hoped, and I just didn't see a way how I could win this game and I go for one of those impacts, and so I choose to go for the armed intervention. But as you can see, sadly, SandHippo has one of the 2 defense cards that are still in the deck, and he is able to defend the aggression. Now I can play the endowment, and now it definitely looks very bad for me. I could still go for the impact of science play, but as I said, it would not be enough, and so I just deleted some stuff, prepared for the impact of competition that is in there, built one more farm for potential impact of agriculture, which maybe doesn't make the biggest sense, because if that would be in there, it would not be enough. But at this point, I think there's maybe even no way how I could come back. Then I can take those 2 yellow cards, and before the final impacts, I'm actually not that much behind, only 19 culture. The impact of competition will be a little bit better for me, but the one impact from SandHippo has to be very big for me, and I don't think there's any impact that would be as big. I mean, if he played impact of strength, maybe, but that is just, I don't see why he would play that in. And no, there is indeed the impact of science, so it kind of did make sense to think about it, but yeah, sadly we can also calculate it out in a moment, and you can see that sadly, even if I would go for the play where I win the impact of science, it wouldn't be enough. And so sadly SandHippo is able to win this game. And it also sadly means that I'm out of the tournament, which of course I'm not very happy about, especially losing 3-0, but SandHippo played very well, and I maybe had not the necessary luck that I would need to win against such a strong player. I definitely don't want to complain too much about my luck, about bad luck, because I think I had. There were also some things that went right for me, but I think in the crucial moments I maybe would have needed a little bit more of luck. And that also shows, of course, that my opponent is very strong. Yeah, and I also think SandHippo made a lot of very strong decisions, and now he is a deserved player in the semi-finals. So yeah. Now we can also calculate it out, what would have happened if I went for the impact of science play. That would be a 20 culture swing, because I would win the impact of science and SandHippo would lose it. I would also seed the impact of architecture. That would be 1 more culture for me, 3 for seeding, so plus 24. But my impact of competition would be 6 less, so only plus 18. And with plus 18 I would still be 7 culture behind. So sadly, even if I try to go for the impact of science, yeah, it still would not be enough. And I think going for the aggression was maybe my last hope that I could have, but sadly SandHippo was able to defend it. It's also not that unlikely that he has 1 defense card, of course, and he had the knowledge, so he willingly was able to go down in strength, because he knew he can defend if he has to. Now, I think in this game, I mean, SandHippo had a very strong start, getting engineering genius in Acropolis, even having the option to potentially go for the Universitas, getting an early Joan of Arc and replacing Hippocrates immediately. But I think I also was able to build up quite a nice civilization. I had strong civil and military actions, a strong economy, but from the beginning I was a little bit behind in culture. And the one big advantage that SandHippo has was his population. I struggled a bit with it, and early colonies that he won so cheaply definitely also helped him. The uncertain borders was quite a setback for me. And then, I tried to go for some culture. I didn't want to commit to military. Maybe I should have committed to military immediately, but I didn't felt comfortable doing so. And then I committed to military. Maybe I should have thought more about taking all of those cards. Should have calculated it more, but maybe I would do the same again, because if we just stay peaceful, then I think SandHippo would probably win the game. So I have to pressure him, and I needed a tanks at the end to go for this war that I went for. And I think if I should get a fast food chains, maybe it's still not enough. Probably with SandHippo having the impact of science, maybe it would still not be enough. But maybe the SandHippo has not that great of an impact, and maybe I would draw something like impact of strength, and then I think I still would have chances to win this game. So I think that maybe was the best solution. Maybe there would be a better solution. Maybe I should just take the Hollywood one at a turn when I take all of those cards, tanks, military buildup, air forces. Maybe I should just take the Hollywood then and invest as much as I can into urban buildings. But SandHippo had a culture lead, had a lot of resources, he could invest a lot into his culture production, and then he could just go for the fast food chains at the end. And yeah, so sadly, I was already in age 3 in a position where I had to hope for something. Sadly, I had not enough resources to really go for a lot of strength with the modern army. Sadly, SandHippo did have a lot of resources, but of course he played this very nicely, with going for a fourth mine and then hitting the economic progress. That gave him a lot of resources. No, so sadly it is not enough at the end, and now my journey in this tournament will sadly end. I'm still very happy that I made it to the quarterfinals. At the beginning of the tournament I was not sure how strong am I in the two-player games. Before the tournament started in, I think, October was it, and I lost some games on 3 HS pulls in a row, and I thought I might be happy if I can advance to stage 4 or maybe stage 3, and I didn't really think that I can make it this far, so I'm very happy about it. I even had a very nice winning streak, and after this, of course, I was more confident, maybe thought I can even win it, or maybe can go a little bit more far, but SandHippo is just a very strong opponent, and sadly I wasn't able to make it. From now on, I will be rooting for SandHippo, because first of all, it is always nice when you can say that you got eliminated against the winner of the tournament, and second of all, I bet on him in the betting that was going on the Discord server, and so maybe I can at least score some nice points in the betting. I hope it was interesting for you, all of those games from the World Championship. I think it was a very interesting tournament. Also very nice that it was an official tournament, because of that a lot of strong players participated, and it was a very nice experience for me. I'm very happy that I made it so far, and from now on I am rooting for SandHippo to win this event, and with that I hope it was an interesting game for you. I hope it was an interesting tournament for you, all of the games from the World Championship. And have a nice time, and see you in the next video.